Good morning. I hope your Wednesday has gotten off to a wonderful beginning. Thank you for joining me. We all know the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We know that they were among the Israelites who were taken into exile in Babylon. We also know that they were chosen to serve in the king's palace because they were from the royal family. They were young, and they were without any physical defect. They were handsome, and they were quick learners with excellent understanding. They were to be trained for 3 years in the language and the literature of the Babylonians before serving in the palace. Now, while they were in training, they were given choice foods and wine from the king's table, but they refused to eat it. The chief steward was worried that their bodies would deteriorate because of the lack of rich food. But they convinced the chief steward to give them only vegetables and water to eat for 10 days, and then compare them with the men who had been eating the food from the king's table. The steward agreed, and at the end of 10 days, David, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego looked healthier and were better nourished than the others. So they were granted permission to continue eating only vegetables and water. These 4 men excelled in their studies and were more knowledgeable than any of the others. When the time came for testing by the king, in every category, they were 10 times better than the others. So you see, God was with them, and He blessed them for choosing not to conform to the king's standards. Daniel excelled in interpreting dreams and was able to do so for King Nebuchadnezzar on many occasions. Then there came the time when King Nebuchadnezzar had a statue commissioned and sent out a decree that everyone, when the alarm sounded, must stop what they are doing and bow down and worship the statue. Anyone not bowing down and worshiping the statue would be punished by immediately being thrown into the fiery furnace. Now, Daniel was serving inside the palace, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were working outside the palace in positions of authority within the Babylonian provinces. There were some astrologers that did not care for the Israelites living in Babylon, and they noticed that these 3 men did not bow down and worship when the alarm sounded. So they turned them into the king. They were brought before King Nebuchadnezzar, and they were questioned. They confessed that they were not obeying the king's decree. They were given a second chance, and they still refused. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego insisted that the God that they served would rescue them. But even if He chose not to, they would never bow down and worship the gods of Babylon. The king was so furious that he had the furnace heated 7 times hotter than normal, and they were thrown into the fiery furnace. As King Nebuchadnezzar stood before the roaring furnace, he was mystified. Not only were the 3 men not affected by the flames, but he saw 4 men in the furnace. He said that the first person looked like a son of the gods. Now, some might think that what the king saw was a figment of his imagination, or perhaps the heat coming off the furnace had affected him and caused him to hallucinate. But it was neither of those things. You see, the king believed in the existence of many gods, so he concluded that the 4th figure was an angel sent by one of his gods. Although the king was confused, he was actually quite close to the truth, because the 4th man in the fire was indeed a messenger from God. Some believed him to even been the angel of the Lord, and possibly a pre-incarnate Jesus himself. In Isaiah 63:9, we read about another instance in which the angel of the Lord intervened, rescuing Israel from her enemies. In his love and grace, Jesus redeemed Israel, just as he redeems us today. He reclaims us from the hold that sin has on us. According to Psalm 34:7, the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Jesus did just that for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as the three men experienced the presence of the true Emmanuel, that is, God with us. Daniel also experienced the presence of God when he was thrown into the lion's den for praying to God Almighty and not the Babylonian God. When God sent an angel to shut the mouths of the lions and saved his life. Your life always, in our lives, we have those fiery trials. We have those things that test our faith. But during these times of crisis, we can hold on to the promise that Jesus is walking with us. He's very present with us. You see, there are no circumstances, no trials, no pending decisions in which he is not present with us. According to Psalm 31:1-5, he is our refuge. He is our strong tower, in whom we can rest secure. Jesus wants to help us because he has both God's glory and our best interest at heart. 1 Corinthians 1:30 tells us that in Jesus we truly find our wisdom, righteousness, holiness, and redemption. Think about the last time you walked through a fiery trial or crisis. Was it apparent at the time that Jesus was walking with you? Perhaps you're going through one of those times right now. If you are, then look around you, because I can guarantee you he's right there beside you. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.